Please, I know this is strange for you, but my children are hungry, and I have nowhere left to go.
The desert stretched endlessly beneath a sky of pale blue and fading gold. Monument Valley sat silent and ancient, its great red towers of stone rising like forgotten gods above the cracked earth. The wind moved slow and dry across the sand, carrying with it the smell of heat and distance. Marcus Cole had been driving alone for 3 days. He was not running from anything, not exactly. He was simply tired. Tired of the city, tired of the noise, tired of a world that had changed so fast in the last 5 years that he barely recognized it anymore. Since the arrival, nothing had been the same. The government called them interstellar refugees. Regular people called them many things, some kind, most not. Marcus had always kept his opinions quiet. He was a quiet man by nature. He pulled his old pickup truck to the side of the empty highway and stepped out to stretch his legs. The silence here was enormous. He breathed it in deeply. That is when he saw them. 3 figures standing at the edge of the road, maybe 40 meters into the desert. At first he thought his eyes were playing tricks. The heat shimmer made everything uncertain. But as he walked closer, shading his eyes with his hand, the figures became real. Woman. Tall and still, with long purple hair that moved softly in the desert wind. Her skin was a deep lavender blue, smooth and otherworldly, catching the afternoon light like polished stone. She wore a simple brown dress, worn at the edges, and she held her hands clasped together at her chest as though she were already praying. Beside her stood a small girl, pale as moonlight, with white blonde hair and wide, serious eyes. The child watched Marcus approach without fear, but without warmth either, the look of someone who had learned very young not to trust easily. And behind them, half hidden in the woman's shadow, a small boy, no older than 5, gripping the edge of his mother's dress with both tiny hands. Marcus stopped a few feet away. The woman spoke first. Please. I know this is strange for you, but my children are hungry, and I have nowhere left to go. I am asking you, will you help us survive? Her voice was low and careful, her English practiced but accented with something that did not belong to any country on earth. She did not look away from his eyes. Whatever she was not afraid to be seen. Marcus stood very still for a long moment. Then he said, "How long have you been out here?" 2 days, she answered. He looked at the children. The boy's lips were cracked. The girl's cheeks were sunken slightly beneath the surface of her pale skin. They had been in the desert heat for 2 days with nothing. "Come with me," Marcus said. He did not think about it longer than that. Her name was Aelith. She told him this quietly as he drove, the children asleep across the back seat within minutes of the truck moving. She told him she had come to Earth 4 years ago with her husband, Dorothy, on one of the last refugee ships before the crossing lanes were closed. They had been assigned to a settlement in Nevada. For 2 years they had lived there in a small prefabricated shelter, growing a small garden, learning English from their neighbors, slowly becoming part of something fragile and uncertain. Then Dorothy had gotten sick. The illness was not something Earth medicine understood. Moved quickly. Within 3 months he was gone, and Aelith was left alone with Scylla, her daughter, and Ren, her son, in a settlement that was already struggling to survive. When the government funding was cut, the settlement dissolved. People scattered. Aelith had no papers, no support network, no one left to call. She had been moving since then, always a little further into nowhere, hoping that somewhere something would be different. "Why the desert?" Marcus asked. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Dorothy always said that the desert reminded him of our home planet. The openness, the silence. I thought if I stayed near it, I would feel less far away from him." Marcus did not answer. He watched the road ahead. He took them to his cousin's empty ranch house outside of Flagstaff. It had been sitting unused for 2 years. His cousin lived in Portland now and had given Marcus the key on the slim chance he might pass through. He had not planned to stop there. Now it seemed like the only reasonable thing. He made them soup from what was in the dry pantry. He found extra blankets. Scylla ate her soup in 3 minutes and then sat perfectly straight, watching Marcus with those careful eyes. Ren fell asleep before he finished his bowl, his small head tipping sideways into his sister's shoulder. That night, after the children were asleep in the back bedroom, Aelith sat across from Marcus at the kitchen table. The lamp between them was old and cast long shadows. "I did not only ask you to help us survive," she said carefully. "I asked if you would take me as your wife." Marcus looked at her. "I know what I am asking," she said. "I know it is large. I know you are a stranger and I am a stranger. But I have Scylla and Ren, and without documentation, without a citizen bond, we will be taken. We will be placed in a processing facility. I have heard what happens there. I cannot allow that. And you think marrying a human would change that? The law says yes. A registered marriage grants provisional status. I have read every line of the Interstellar Integration Act." He paused. "I would not ask this if there were another way. I am not asking you to love me. I am asking you to give us a chance to exist." Marcus was quiet for a long time. He thought about the boy's cracked lips. He thought about the girl's careful, watchful eyes. He thought about what it meant to drive alone through the desert for 3 days because the world had become too loud. Then he thought that perhaps the world was not too loud. Perhaps it had simply been asking him something he had not been listening for. "I'm not a good man," he said finally. "I'm quiet and I'm stubborn and I don't really know what I'm doing most of the time." Aelith looked at him steadily. "Neither do I." He almost smiled. "We'd need to do it properly. Papers, witnesses, the whole thing." "Yes," she said. "The whole thing." "All right," Marcus said. The lamp flickered once between them. Outside, the desert was enormous and dark and full of stars. The same stars that Aelith had crossed to find herself sitting here, at a stranger's table, with her children sleeping safely in the next room.